Point 1. Don't let being average stop you from living an amazing life. Let's dive into a fascinating observation. Mediocrity has robbed many of the zeal to lead an extraordinary life. In simpler terms, settling for just good enough has often killed the drive in many folks and businesses to reach for the stars and be truly exceptional. To get a grip on this idea, let's look at the backdrop. Jim Collins and his team spent 5 years studying what makes some companies stand head and shoulders above the rest. They sifted through data from companies whose stocks were publicly traded, focusing on their performance from 1985 to 2000. They only picked companies that had a significant turning point and had returns at least 3 times the market over 15 years. This ensured that the companies they studied were consistently high performers, not just lucky or riding a short-term wave. Out of all the companies they looked at, only 11 made the cut and were dubbed good to great companies. What's interesting is that these companies' success wasn't tied to how well their industries were doing. This means their success wasn't just because they were in a hot industry, but because of their unique business practices and strategies. When Collins and his team dug deeper, they found that these good to great companies had some things in common that went against the grain of traditional business thinking. They didn't follow the usual playbook for building successful companies. Instead, they blazed their own trail, shaking off the chains of mediocrity and reaching for excellence. This brings us back to the idea that mediocrity has robbed many of the zeal to lead an extraordinary life. A lot of companies are okay with just being okay, rather than pushing to be great. This acceptance of just being average can kill innovation, ambition, and the drive to be the best. It creates a comfort zone that's hard to break out of, stopping companies from reaching their full potential. But the good to great companies Collins and his team identified didn't settle for just being okay. They had the drive and ambition to be great, not just in terms of making money, but in all aspects of their business. They focused on getting the right people, building a culture of discipline, and using technology to boost momentum, not just create it. So, the idea that mediocrity has robbed many of the zeal to lead an extraordinary life is a wake-up call for companies to break out of the mediocrity mold and push for greatness. It's a reminder that being okay with just being okay is a roadblock to achieving amazing results. By learning from the good to great companies Collins and his team identified, companies can blaze their own trail to greatness and achieve consistent high performance. Point 2. Great leaders find people who are self-driven to join their team. What sets apart the top dogs in successful companies? According to Jim Collins, it's their knack for spotting and bringing on board folks who are self-starters. This is key because it lets these leaders build a team that's all in, dedicated, and committed to the company's success. Let's take a look at Darwin E. Smith, the former head honcho of Kimberly-Clark, a big-time personal care corporation. Smith wasn't your typical flashy CEO. He was a down-to-earth, modest leader who put his faith in his team. Under his watch, Kimberly-Clark went from being 36% below the average market stock rating to having stock returns 4.1 times that of the average market. This wasn't just Smith's doing. It was because he put together a team of self-starters who were all in for the company's success. Smith wasn't about chasing personal fame or recognition. He was all about the company's goals, putting them before his own. When praise came his way, he was happy to step aside, knowing his main job was to do everything he could to help the company come out on top. This selfless approach to leadership is a common thread among the big shots in successful companies. Another key point that Collins brings up is that the top-performing CEOs aren't always those who are brought in from outside the company. In fact, many of the leaders who've turned good companies into great ones have climbed the ladder from within the company. These leaders get the company's culture, values, and how things work, and they use this knowledge to drive the company's success. What's more, these successful leaders also make sure the company keeps on winning by grooming capable successors. They get that their job isn't just about leading the company to greatness, but also about making sure this greatness keeps going long after they've moved on. So to wrap it up, the leadership trait of the big shots in successful companies, as identified by Jim Collins, is their ability to find self-starters to join their team. These leaders are selfless, dedicated to the company's success, and committed to making sure this success keeps going. They get that their job isn't about personal fame, but about doing everything they can to help the company come out on top. Point 3. Building a successful company means spending time with people you care about. Building a top-notch company isn't just about raking in the dough or ruling the market. It's about crafting a space where folks are excited to clock in every day and are fired up about their work. This is a nugget of wisdom from Jim Collins. Collins stresses the need for the right folks in the right roles. It's not just about snagging the brightest minds, but making sure they're in positions that match their talents and interests. When folks are doing what they love and are good at, they're more likely to be engaged, productive, and dedicated to the company's triumph. Collins uses the bus analogy to drive this point home. He suggests that leaders should first load the bus, the company, with the right people, and then decide where to steer it. The right people are those who are on board with the company's values and vision and have the chops to help it succeed. Collins also underlines the need to handle the wrong people quickly and decisively. If someone isn't meshing well with the team, it's better to part ways sooner rather than later. This isn't about being heartless, but about being strict in keeping a high-performing team. Take Apple, for example. Steve Jobs, the co-founder, was known for his strict hiring practices and his dedication to building a team of top performers. He believed that top performers like to work with other top performers and that they're crucial to the company's success. This approach has helped Apple become one of the most successful and innovative companies on the planet. In a nutshell, building a top-notch company is about more than just financial success. It's about creating a space where folks love to work and are in roles that match their talents and interests. This not only leads to a successful company, but also to an extraordinary life for its employees. Point 4. The best companies are brave enough to face the hard truths. Let's talk about a key idea from Jim Collins' work, which he calls the Stockdale paradox. This concept is named after Admiral Jim Stockdale, a U.S. military officer who was a prisoner of war for 8 years during the Vietnam War. Despite the grim circumstances, Stockdale never lost hope of surviving, but he also didn't shy away from the harsh reality of his situation. Now, let's apply this to the business world. The Stockdale paradox is about a company's ability to face the tough realities of its current situation while still having unwavering belief in its future success. It's not about being overly positive, but about being brutally honest about the hurdles and challenges that are in the way. Take Nucor, a steel company, as an example. Nucor had the guts to face the harsh truth that the old ways of making steel were becoming outdated. Instead of turning a blind eye to this fact, they embraced it and switched their focus to mini-mills, a more efficient and cost-effective way of producing steel. This bold move to face the harsh truths of their industry allowed Nucor to become one of the top steel companies in the U.S. Or consider Gillette. They were up against tough competition from makers of disposable razors. Rather than ignoring this fact, they faced it head-on and created their own line of disposable razors. This strategy not only helped them keep their market share, but also allowed them to break into new markets. These examples show the importance of creating a culture where the truth is heard. This means leaders asking tough questions, encouraging robust debates, and promoting open and honest conversations. It's about making a safe space where employees can voice their concerns and ideas, and where failures are seen as chances to learn and grow, not as reasons to point fingers and assign blame. But it's not enough for top-notch companies to just face the harsh truths. They act on them. They use these truths to shape their strategies and make necessary changes. They know that knowing the truth isn't enough. They must also take decisive action based on that truth. In a nutshell, the ability to face the harsh truths is what sets apart the best companies. It's about having the bravery to face reality, the wisdom to learn from it, and the determination to act on it. This is what separates these companies and allows them to make the jump from good to great. Point 5. It's self-discipline, not bossiness, that grows a business. In Jim Collins' exploration of what makes a company truly exceptional, he zeroes in on the power of self discipline over a top down dictatorial approach. Let's unpack this a bit. Self discipline is all about being able to manage your actions, emotions, and behaviors, aligning them with your goals without needing someone else to keep you in check. In a business, this means that the team is driven and dedicated to reaching the company's goals without the need for a rule book or someone constantly looking over their shoulder. On the flip side, a dictatorial approach is when all the power is concentrated at the top, with strict rules and regulations that everyone else has to follow. In a business, this means that a few people at the top make all the decisions, with little to no input from the rest of the team. Collins argues that companies thrive when they're powered by self-discipline rather than a dictatorial approach. Why? Because self-discipline creates a culture where everyone feels responsible for the company's success. A dictatorial approach, on the other hand, can squash creativity and innovation, as people may feel too boxed in by rules to think creatively. Take the example of a steel company that Collins talks about. Their success was largely due to a culture of self-discipline. They had a clear vision and strategy, and everyone, from the CEO to the factory workers, was dedicated to this vision. There were no complicated rules or red tape. Instead, everyone was trusted to do their job to the best of their ability. This culture of self-discipline allowed the company to innovate and adapt, driving their growth. On the other hand, Collins also talks about companies that relied on a dictatorial approach and failed to make the leap from good to great. These companies often had complicated hierarchies and red tape that stifled innovation and creativity. Employees weren't empowered to make decisions or take risks, leading to stagnation and lack of growth. Collins also points out that technology isn't a magic solution for business growth. While it can speed up growth, it can't replace good management or a culture of self-discipline. Companies that rely only on technology often find it hard to maintain their success in the long run. In a nutshell, Collins's research suggests that self-discipline, not a dictatorial approach, is the key to driving business growth. Companies that cultivate a culture of self-discipline, where everyone is dedicated to the company's vision and strategy, are more likely to make the leap from good to great. Point 6. You've got to put in the work before you see the payoff. In Jim Collins' insightful work, he talks about the idea of enduring a buildup before hitting a breakthrough. Think of it like constructing a skyscraper. You can't just start building upwards. You need to spend a good deal of time and effort laying the foundation, setting up the framework, and making sure the structure is solid. This is the build-up phase, and it's a crucial part of the process that can't be rushed or skipped. Now let's apply this to a business setting. The build-up phase here means creating a strong company identity, crafting a clear and effective business strategy, and generating a momentum that will propel the company forward. This could mean a range of actions, like restructuring the business, reshaping leadership, adopting new technologies, or even making strategic acquisitions. Each of these steps adds to the overall growth and development of the company, just like each brick adds to the construction of a building. The breakthrough is when all the hard work during the build-up phase starts to pay off. This is when the company shifts from being good to being great. It's like when the skyscraper reaches its full height and becomes a standout feature of the skyline. But remember, the breakthrough isn't an overnight success. It's the result of all the hard work and effort put in during the build-up phase. One of the key lessons from Collins's work is that there's no set timeline for the build-up phase. For some companies, it might take 3 years to hit the breakthrough point, while for others, it might take as long as 10 years. The key is not to rush the process or look for quick fixes. Instead, companies should focus on laying a strong foundation and building momentum, knowing that the breakthrough will come when the time is right. In a nutshell, the idea of enduring the build-up before hitting the breakthrough is a reminder of the importance of patience, hard work, and strategic planning in the journey from good to great. It's a reminder that success isn't an overnight phenomenon, but rather the result of consistent effort and dedication over time. Point 7. Conclusion. Achieving greatness is not a matter of circumstance, but rather a conscious choice and discipline. Companies that transition from good to great do so by focusing on what they can do best, and they have the discipline to stick with it. They understand their core competencies and use them to drive their business. Great companies also have leaders who are humble yet driven. These leaders are not interested in personal glory, but are committed to making their companies successful. They surround themselves with the right people, those who are competent and share the company's vision. Moreover, these companies are not afraid of confronting brutal facts. They face reality and make necessary changes, no matter how difficult. They also have a culture of discipline where everyone understands their responsibilities and is committed to delivering results. Greatness is not about being lucky. It's about making the right decisions and sticking with them. It's about having the right people on board and leading them with humility and determination. It's about understanding what you can do best and using it to drive your business. It's about facing reality and having the discipline to do what needs to be done. In essence, the leap from good to great is not a single step but a journey. It requires consistent effort, discipline, and the right leadership. But with these elements in place, any company can make the leap and achieve greatness.